Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning.
A podcast where we share with you great insights about everything family from over 30 years of parenting 7 kids and over a decade of equipping parents through our Crazy Cool Family ministry.
So let us inspire and equip you to build your best family.
Hello. We're going to talk about meltdowns today. So I started to start the podcast with
throwing a big fat fit.
Throwing a fit, or the screaming. Did that, even that little maybe that was annoying to you, because meltdowns, we've all had them.
Yeah.
Well, we've not only have we all had them, we've all seen our kids have them.
Absolutely. I think like Mackenzie and I are coming up in the future. Mackenzie and I are doing one on emotional regulation, so that's a little bit different. But I think that we are constantly asked all the time, what do you do when your kid has a meltdown? And we've done a deep dive on meltdown monster. Why does it feel like our child is such a monster when they're melting down? And I think that the reason that it's such a hot topic, like if you even Google what are the top parenting, questions, meltdowns are one of the, fits, whatever you want, tantrums, whatever you want to call it. Those are one of the top things that people are looking into. And I just had this thought, I think it's because when our kids react that way, it makes us question our parenting abilities. Like, am I a terrible parent that my kid is losing it in front of everybody right now?
And oh yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it's embarrassment when our kid throws a fit. It is super embarrassing, especially if it's in public, but also just
or in front of people we know. Even
yes, I mean
our family,
it could be in front
our
of
parents.
extended family. Also, I think we don't like the reaction it brings out in us. Oh my goodness. I mean, it was literally like, that child is throwing a fit. I want that child to be taken to Nevada. I mean, I just don't want to.
When it's your child, but if you see another child out in public throwing a fit, how do you feel?
Oh, I'm kind of.
Chuckle, right? You gotta chuckle a little
poor
bit.
Guy.
Yeah, exactly. Been there, done that. I've walked by a fit-throwing kid going, been there, done that, sorry.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so funny that as parents, we are freaking out at the perception that we think other parents have. They're judging us and our failures as a parent. But in reality, the parent that's not having we're just shaking our head going, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. We validate, we empathize. We're not going, oh, you loser parent. We're not thinking that at all.
But do you think that the younger parent, when we're, for you guys that have younger kids, do you judge when you see somebody else? I mean, we've been through 7 kids and done every kind of fit possible now.
See, I have the answer for them. I do not, once they've had a kid, and their kid's thrown a fit, they don't judge that person ever again. But any younger person who has not had kids yet, they will say,
oh yeah, our unmarried kids.
Yes, they will say, my kid's not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
My kid's not going to throw a fit. My kid never. And I'm like, oh, don't say never.
Our unmarried kids get annoyed when their
nieces and nephews
throw fits. Yeah. And why does this happen? Why can't we?
Yeah, why can't you control that kid? And I'm like, good luck with that.
But really what we want to do is talk about how meltdowns are opportunities.
Absolutely.
That and we were going to talk about meltdowns today, but meltdowns, you could also say sometimes a kid withdraws. They do things that, and many times we're okay with the compliant child, but we're not okay with the meltdown child. But all of these are opportunities to connect with your child. They're opportunities to build character in your child, or they're opportunities to drive wedges in relationships. Yeah. They're opportunities to, sometimes think about this, parents. What if you unknowingly are training your child to throw meltdown fits?
Oh, yeah.
What if by your actions,
exactly,
you are actually training, maybe showing an example for them to do a meltdown fit, because we do meltdown fits, or maybe the Bible talks about how fathers do not exasperate your children, meaning that our control of them or our expectations, the only way they know, or maybe we're not giving them the attention, and the only way they know to get our attention is to throw a fit. I mean, what if you're training we'll talk about that a little bit, but
well, yeah, I mean, let's talk about that a little bit. I love that. I mean, I love the list that you did, and to add to that, I think that so many times as parents, we tell our kids no, and so they live in a world of no, and so how do you feel when someone tells you no? You know, the first thing I do when someone tells me no is I look for a way to turn it into a yes, because I'm an opportunist, and so are children. They are naturally want the adventure, they naturally want the fun, and they naturally want the yes. And so a lot of the times they'll bring something to the table that doesn't fly in our adult world. You know, they want to eat popsicles for breakfast, and that's not going to work in our world. So it's met with an instant no. And so that's the first no. And then there's another no and another no, and they want to go outside and play, and it's a no, and it's in the rain. And I would even say they're all justifiable no's. I mean, I would say that they're all probably legit no's, and they could be. But just imagine if everything you did was a no. Every direction you wanted to turn was a no. How does that make you feel? It drives you to the corner, drives you to the meltdown, and then you come out being a monster.
Yeah, I'm just annoyed sitting here listening to you say the word no. Just no. It is. I mean, there's just something about what you've done a great job of, just as a technique of avoiding the meltdown by saying not right now. You know, we're not gonna have a popsicle right now.
Or I would say this is how I say it, because it's really tricky and probably a little bit manipulative. Absolutely, you can have a popsicle. I love popsicles. Popsicles are delicious. After lunch is the perfect time to have a popsicle. There's never a no. There's never a don't. There's never a can't. There's never any. It's just I'm redirecting their idea. Imagine that. Taking their idea and redirecting it into a place that works in your parameters, in your world. And so, that's the thing, that if we can, like Dawn said earlier, the meltdowns and the fits are opportunities to build connections and character and to guide hearts. And at Crazy Cool Family, one of our missions is to help you see these meltdowns and these fits not as a problem to avoid, but as moments to get to disciple and to connect with your kids.
I mean, think about this, parents. When do you learn best? Do you learn best through adversity, or do you learn best through the good times?
Oh, yeah.
So when, and I believe that, God works all things to our good. And so therefore, when we have adversity, we tend to learn. I'm more determined because through what I feel like is my lack of something than I've got this down. When I feel like I've got it down, I don't want to work as hard to get it, to get better at it. Well, therefore, a meltdown is a form of adversity. The child is presenting you with a situation that is definitely adversity. It gets on our every last nerve. We get embarrassed, all these things. And so how are we going to turn it first for ourselves? Because we turn it for ourselves first, and then we can flip it for our children. If we handle the meltdown well, one, we'll have less meltdowns over time from that child. But also that we are going to give them an example of how to handle a meltdown and how to handle their meltdown.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the times that I think that kids just get overwhelmed and frustrated and disappointed with, once again, being controlled with the no and all of that stuff. And I think that if we can, as their parents, as we spend time with them, if we can show them how to problem solve and be strategic in that, because that's what they're going to need to do out in the great world that they live in. When someone tells them a no, how are they going to respond? Are they going to respond in a meltdown? Are they going to come back with a may I make an appeal? May I change? Can we do something different? And so to me, the meltdown is the very first step in showing your kids how to have a relationship with somebody, a give and take. And right now, if they're little bitty, then they don't know how to do that. But as parents, we get to show them how to do that. So, for example, let's say that your child wants to wear a pair of shoes and you want him to wear a different pair of shoes. And so they're throwing a fit about wearing that pair of shoes. And if you come to them and you say, nope, we're going to wear this shoes. It's what it is. It's what we're going to do. Period. The end. That we're going to do that. You have the meltdown. You get over it. They wear the shoes. You go on your way. That's how it happens. Now, that night when you come home and you take off the shoes, you say, it was important that you wear these shoes because of this, this, and this. But tomorrow, which shoes do you want to wear? And so you're showing them how to be something different. Or I really wanted you to wear these shoes, but you could have worn this shoe and this shoe, And so I think that if we work with our children on how to communicate, once again, this is not the 2-year-old. They're kind of hard to work with. But as your children are getting older and they're still throwing those fits, then what is it that we can do as a parent to help them communicate with us? Because that's what I think meltdowns are all about. Is there's a misstep in the communication. We're not hearing what they really truly desire, and we're not hearing what they really truly desire. Did I say that the right way?
Yeah, and I think there's also just different reasons for meltdowns. Sometimes the kid may have just struck out 3 times. Yeah, and so they're melting down because of embarrassment, because of failure. Sometimes especially in our world today, our kids are overstimulated. There is so much overstimulation, and they just, we numb ourselves to it. We've learned how to numb ourselves. We withdraw in some way, and man, they're immature, and so they don't know how to. They haven't developed the hacks that we have done to cope with life. And so they just, all of a sudden it's like, or maybe it wasn't us. Maybe somebody else yelled out. Maybe a teacher yelled at them, or, told them they were less than or whatever. And so they're feeling that way. So some of it with a meltdown is, and maybe we're just the last no.
Absolutely.
So often I think that we think, oh my goodness, how did they go from 0 to meltdown? But really it's been building all day.
Yes.
And if we, and so we can try to figure out how to navigate that with them and realize that it's not just about us, that there's a lot of things hitting our kids, especially as they get older, a lot of things hitting them every day.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. So we're pretty deep into school now. It's been a couple months. But in the beginning, remember when your kids got in the car after they'd been minding their manners all day long, and you say something to them and they snap at you, or they're rude, or they break down in tears, and they've held it all together all day long, and you, mom or dad, are the safest place that they have. And so they're going to just unload on you. And so for us as parents, if we will respond with graciousness and love and understanding and almost honor that our kids are unloading on us, and seeing that we are that safe place for them, then we can minister to them and we can love them and we can guide and direct them through that. We can feel, I'm sorry that you've had such a lousy day. Let's play a worship song, or let's listen to something fun, or we got to laugh. We've got to laugh right now. Here's the moment.
Remember when in the Bible, when Elijah, he has done all this work for the Lord, and all these miracles happened, but then afterwards he's like, he goes away and he's just he's depressed because nobody's following him, and
I did all this.
Yeah, and he's like, I just want to die, Lord. He's just basically having a meltdown.
Absolutely.
He's a prophet of God having a meltdown. And what did the Lord do? He's like, have a snack and take a nap.
Exactly.
He said, I've got this.
Yeah.
Elijah, there's 7,000 other people that are following me that you don't know about. And basically, you've been through a lot, you're exhausted, have a snack. And sometimes I think that's, hey, wow, wow, that's a meltdown.
Yeah.
Wow. Hey, even just, almost like laughing at them, hey, wow,
Yeah.
boy, that's a great one, man. You really did this. Can we get you something to eat? Can we,
Yes.
and letting
Bring
it,
something in the car when you pick them up from school. There's a hack for you.
yeah, just
But
letting it diffuse and, because,
and not getting emotionally involved and not taking it personally. The picture I keep seeing is the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. Don't look at the moment that's happening right now and the monster that's melting down in that moment and what's happening, but look at the bigger picture. What are all the things that have been added up? What was the recipe that created this meltdown? And now how are you going to steward it? And how are you going to manage it? And how are you going to help your child respond maturely the next time?
Yeah, think about Psalm 103:8 says the Lord is a great example of a father. He calls himself Father for that reason. It says the Lord is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. Okay, if you can think about responding to meltdowns with those three things, it says the Lord is compassionate and gracious. Mm-hmm. He is slow to anger. He's abounding in love. In none of those does it justify, it doesn't say let your child run over you. It doesn't say that you're not supposed to tell your child, look, fits really aren't acceptable. Mm-hmm. I think so often when we think if we're going to be compassionate and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love, we're going to be that permissive parent that's not going to, I've definitely had, but in the moment, a lot of times it's not the time to challenge the fit. It's a time to get them get the meltdown to not be melted down anymore, or even let it fully melt down. Mm-hmm. Then you can come back and say, and you're kind of coaching them, navigating them through the meltdown, because so often parents are, I'm going to go further. I'm going to ratchet it up because I'm going to be stronger than you in the meltdown, and they wonder why it gets worse.
Exactly.
Before it gets better.
Exactly. It's almost like they throw gasoline on the fire. And so if the meltdown is a fire, then what are you going to do to calm that fire?
Yeah, immediately it's kind of like we got to triage the wound.
Yeah,
we got to
see it as a wound almost. That's good.
And then we've got to settle it down. We got to stabilize it, if you will. Then we can treat it. And again, that doesn't mean it's acceptable.
Right.
And so, and one of the things I told my kids a lot is, I don't ever get to talk that way to you. You don't ever get to talk that way to me.
Right. But you don't say that in the middle of the meltdown because they're not going to hear it. It's only going to put fuel on the fire. But when on the other side of the meltdown, then you can say, person to person, man to man here, man to woman, can I... lay a boundary of respect.
You can also say, depending on where you are, probably not in the middle of the grocery store with your 3-year-old is when you can do this, but you can also say, hey, I'm not going to listen to you. You need to go somewhere. You can put them in a different spot till they can gain self-control, things like that.
Well, that's what I was going to say is you've got to know your child and you've got to know your child and you've got to know the situation that your child is in, because there are different methods. You can remove your child from the situation and that might work. You can speak softly in their ear using words. That might work. You can scoop them up and hug them really tight. That might work. You can send them, go to your room until you can get your self-control. That might work. But tomorrow, another situation, it might work. And so you've got to know your child. Do they need to calm down themselves? But I want to tell you, parents, don't do them all at the same. Don't send them off. Okay, go away. No, come here. Let me hold you. No, you go away. They're too confused. Pick one. Pick one method to help regulate and calm them down, if you will, and then go with that.
Another thing that we did, I think that is very effective is as soon as the child starts to throw a fit, let's say they really wanted something and didn't get it. And, I would tell them at that point, wow, you know what? There's no way I can meet your request now because I'm not going to reward this behavior. And so at that point, it makes them have to think, oh, wow, the incentive is no longer there. We're not going to be manipulated. And just,
right.
And so we tell parents this all the time. You're going to be embarrassed as a parent. It's just going to happen. Your kids are going to do things that you're like, oh my goodness, I wish they didn't do that. But you know what? God's, it's not about, we don't get approval from other people about our parenting. And if we do, it really needs to be God giving us the approval in our parenting, not others. But you're going to be embarrassed. But don't let your child manipulate you through embarrassment. They know that. And so sometimes they're throwing a fit so that you will do what they want. So don't do that.
And so I have the opposite side of that coin in that now I did not do this when I was a young parent, and I hope it's not confusing you now when I come from a grandparent. But when I remember having a granddaughter over here a couple years ago, and she was starting to throw a fit because of a snack that she wanted. And I was like, listen, you don't have to throw a fit. I'm Yaya. I'm going to give you whatever you want. You don't have to throw a fit. And so it paved the way. I was watching her for a full week while her mom was off on mission. And she never she never had another fit again because I laid the groundwork down of basically, you're safe and I'm for you. And I'm going to give you exactly what you need. So you don't, and I'm going to pay attention to you so you don't have to throw the fit. And so what Don said was really good on the back end of the front, but really good for the back end of the fit. That's what you do. That's how you put your parameters in place. If you will take care of it on the front end of it, then you won't have the fit. If you can go in and you can say, I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to give you what you need. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to use our words, and I've watched my daughter now who has now a 2-year-old, and she was throwing fits like crazy, and she figured out a way to show her daughter that she was getting exactly what she needed. Maybe not what she wanted, but what she needed, and her fits were alleviated. And so if you come in on the front end, when you're working with your child, you see them, you see what they want, you see what they need, you see what you want to give them, you see what you need to give them, and you work that through both of y'all's filters of want and need, then it actually alleviates a lot of the fits on the back end.
Which if you're a guy, it feels like, oh my goodness, those are a lot of words. They just need to do what I ask them to do. I mean,
and that's true
without
too.
throwing
There
a
are
fit,
times,
they just need
yes.
to do what I ask them to do. But what I'll say to that is, what I've learned over time is that if you do words on the front end, you establish certain parameters where you get good actions on the back end. And so the words, it's like an investment. If we establish the culture in the front of the business, or as you come into the business, then people just act that way, because you really do establish a culture in your home. And that one of the things of the culture of our home is that fits don't get fits or tantrums or meltdowns are just not going to get you where you want to go. And we're going to try. I
remember saying, that's not fun for anybody. That's not fun for me. Is that fun for you? I like having fun. Let's have fun. So it's not a whole lot of words. It's super simple. I'm glad that you said that, Dawn, that there is a trend that is happening now, and with the why and teaching your kids the why, and with that
everything's a negotiation.
And exactly, and with that there are a lot of words coming from the mother or the parents, and the kids' eyes have glassed over. They're done. They stopped listening 27 words ago, and so I do want to encourage you that by all means, do the work on the front end, but do it simply. Don't use a whole bunch of words because they can't handle them. They can't process them. Men don't want all the words, so think simply. How do you talk to your spouse? Okay, then now, even less words to your toddler. So yeah, I'm glad that you said that. I'm glad you brought that up.
What should we talk about with teenage meltdowns? We've kind of focused a little bit on younger kids, but teenagers or spouse meltdowns, that happens too. Yes.
Acknowledging that with your spouse. That doesn't usually go over well.
The teenager may slam the door. You guys are you guys are killing my social life. You
or
know,
throw something. There's always usually something to be thrown.
Or yell. And, and then a lot of times, especially, the dad may say, you don't get to talk to mom that way. And it turns into a screaming, and a power struggle and we wonder why our relationships are divided with our teenagers. Suzanne, what would you say is some ways that parents can handle teenager meltdowns that would be effective?
Well, I think one of the most powerful things we can do with our teenagers is apologize when we lose our self-control. When we reflect back to them, like let's say that their hormones have taken them to another level of out of control. Just an interesting fact that all the same connections that are happening in a 2-year-old at that rate, they're an outrageous rate, and that's why they're called terrible twos. It's happening in the teenager brain too, and so the teenager is in a world where so just to understand them just a little bit, they are completely in a world of leaving childhood behind and stepping into adulthood, but they're not equipped yet, and they haven't have enough experiences, and they don't know, but their brain is gearing up for that, and so there's a lot going on internally. So as parents, if we understand that, then we won't match their whatever it is they're throwing at us, whether it's their anger, their frustration, their apathy, their where they want to disengage, they want to disconnect. If we will continue to pursue them with what the scripture said, Psalms 103, if we pursue them with compassion and graciousness, if we don't respond to them with anger and abounding in love, then it's really hard for them to continue to reject us over and over again, to stay in their fit. So go back to what I started with. If we will apologize to them, I'm sorry that I'm sorry that I responded that way. I'm sorry if I'm upset for anything that we've done. Or if we go into their fit with, I'm sorry that you're so upset about this. I'm sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry that then. Forgiveness is just a supernatural connector that helps the parent and the teenager almost see things from a whole different way or perspective.
Yeah, I think teenage fits, teenage meltdowns are just a red flag. They are.
Would you say they're a cry for help or not necessarily?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is, but I mean, because one of the things that was really helpful to me, and I don't really know, I'm sure you taught it to me, Suzanne, but I mean, but I don't know, but I don't remember exactly where and how it became ingrained in me. But when our teenagers, did whatever that meltdown was, it was a trigger for me to say, wow, what's really going on here? Because especially if it wasn't the norm for them. Now, if it's the norm, if you've got a teenager that always has meltdowns, it's a different scenario. It's there's deeper things that are going on there. But in reality, a lot of times a teenager doesn't throw a fit, all the time. It's just sometimes, and then it would be like, okay, this is a red flag. There's something going on with my relationship with them, with their relationship with the mom, with their relationship with a sibling. What else? How are we going to attack the relationship? How are we going to explore? What I mean by attack the relationship is how we really better
not
words,
attacking the relationship.
is to explore what's going on. Is it maybe, so for example, maybe they're just, maybe this just been a really rough week in school. Maybe they may just make 2 bad grades on tests or whatever. And so maybe it's time to just go play catch with them, or, it's time to just reestablish some relational bonds that are there. But I think when you can see the teenage fit as a red flag, it's what we're doing to them for their good, embarrassing them with their friends, and what's the root cause and how can we attack it? In a way that is effective.
Yeah, I think what I think about when I think of a meltdown is that the child, whether it's a child or a preteen or a teenager, is there too much is happening to them. Too much is happening internally, externally, and so it's too much. And so it's almost like they're a bomb. And so what is it that we can do as the parent, as the person that loves them most, is a person that has been sent by God, in their lives to shepherd, guide, mold, train them, love them unconditionally. How do we diffuse the bomb? How do we diffuse what's happening that's too much for them? How do we peel that back? And so as parents, if we can
It's always the red wire. It's always the red wire. The red wire instead of the green wire. You don't pull the green wire because the red wire.
It's going to explode.
Yeah, exactly.
And if it explodes and everybody's a mess, that's okay too, parents. You can go in and you can pick up the pieces. You can start with the apology, followed up with an I love you, and go in and pick up the pieces. But I just think that when it comes to, meltdowns, when anybody, whether it's our spouse all the way down to our toddler, when they're having a meltdown, to just take a minute before you react, think about how should I respond, maybe take a big breath and see it as, okay, they've got too much. How do I help them with the too much?
Yeah. And as we wrap up, just remember, you're the parent, they're the child. You are training them, and you'll train them by your example, for one, and as well as you'll train them with your reaction to their fits. Sometimes they're even throwing fits just to see how you're going to react. And when you provide a safe place for them, again, it's not acceptable. Please don't hear that safety equals acceptable. But when you provide a safe place for them to express themselves, and then you respond to it appropriately, they don't, that's another thing. When people don't expect to get away with fits, even teenagers,
they're even embarrassed I know that when I've thrown a fit, I'm embarrassed on the other side.
So they don't. But in the meantime, remember, you're the parent, they're the child, and when you can see fits, meltdowns as opportunities, then you will be able to, over time, there's two things happen. One of them is that you'll feel better about yourself and your parenting, and over time, fits that aren't rewarded, meltdowns that are not rewarded and are responded to well, lead to less meltdowns. Absolutely. And that's what you want.
Absolutely.
So there you go. As always, parents, thanks for being with us. Go be crazy. crazycoolfamily.com.